In our previous video, we looked at the internal audit and the individual questions, which are answered by all account holders, whether they are general staff or DP staff. Now, we're going to turn our attention to the work that is undertaken by the data protection staff. To access these questions, we begin by selecting Internal Audit from the navigation pane. I'm going to look at the data mapping review to begin with. Now, this relates to your suppliers. So if I click on Start, it generates a list of all of the suppliers and products that you've subscribed to. And what we need to do for each of these suppliers is to come over and click on Begin Review. The first thing we see is the data map. And I've actually explained what these show in an earlier video called Understanding Data Maps. So you will have looked at the data map for each product when you initially subscribed to it in the suppliers section of your portal. However, this part of your internal audit just shows you once more a data map just for your peace of mind. When we click on Next, we can see all of the contact information for this particular supplier. So at the very least, you can expect to see the legal address and either an email address or a telephone number for the company. And here is listed the supplier's compliance documentation. Now, just to explain, as we're approached by schools to add more suppliers to our database, we do investigate very thoroughly the compliance. Although you may not be aware, but as yet the ICO hasn't actually said what it is to be compliant. So as a company, we've taken the decision that provided that within their documentation, such as their privacy policy, it states what information they're taking, why they're taking it, where they're storing it, and whether they're sharing it, we are taking that as compliant. Legally, however, no one other than the person responsible for data protection within your school or MAT can actually say that it's okay to share personal data with anyone. It's always a risk to work with any supplier, but if you're satisfied to continue to work with them, you just have to scroll down the page and click on Accept. However, if you're not going to accept them at this stage, perhaps you have a query about the handling of your data, you can pop a little note to yourself just here, and then you can either email us or give us a ring, and we can then approach that supplier for you and answer any query you may have, because that's what we're here for. There's something else we ask suppliers to undertake, and that is a series of questions about their compliance. And as you can see, we're looking at parent pay here, and they've done this. So if I just take you through a couple of their answers. So this is all about complex passwords, and you can see they've put a response in there. Now, you're going to find that some suppliers haven't actually answered these questions, and the reason being is that they're saying that within their compliance documentation, all of these questions have been addressed, and that is absolutely fine. Once you're happy, clicking Accept takes us back to that list of suppliers and products, and it's just then a question of working your way through each, clicking on Begin Review, and just taking a look at the compliance documentation and clicking Accept, or writing a little note if you don't accept. We're now going to turn our attention to the school questions, which are completed by the DP level of staff. The first thing you should see is that it looks the same as the individual questions that everybody completes. So, to recap, you have a question, a prompt, a multiple choice drop-down, and a little triangle that when you click, gives you the opportunity to write some free text. Now, the expectation is that you will enter some text in response to every question. By all means, you can obviously answer with a multiple choice response, but you really should then be providing evidence for your answer in the form of free text. But the evidence honestly does not have to be War and Peace. It can literally be things such as refer to school privacy policy, and that's fine. You're just stating whereabouts you've considered that particular question, maybe in a prior document. So we're going to go through these various sections. The first being the role of the school, and in here you are contextualizing your school. It's just thinking about your stakeholders and what involvement they've had in terms of shaping your management of data. Now, the first question, can you adequately describe your school, is asking you, are you primary or secondary? Are you associated with the diocese? Are you an academy? It's that kind of question. The leadership section is concerned with the policies that you've already created, and it's also asking you about your DPO. So let's just go through a couple of these. We've got, have you got a safeguarding policy? Have you written a data protection policy? Have you been reviewing your policies in light of the GDPR? Have you appointed a DPO? Have they had adequate training, etc.? The third section, privacy impact assessments, is all to do with risk. So it's asking you about undertaking some DPIAs. So for example, have you spotted any holes within your management of risk? The school-wide support section is about your general staff on a day-to-day basis. So how do you ensure your staff are maintaining good practice, and how are you overseeing the support that you're giving? Now, for the operation questions, you'll probably want to bring in somebody, maybe your network manager or someone else with a technical background, because this is asking you to focus on your infrastructure. So it's your communications, your laptops. How are they being maintained? And how are you ensuring that you're not going to breach data via those channels? As you can see, we've got 16 questions for this section, so it's quite a long one. We then come on to reviews and improvements. And it's exactly what it suggests. It's your opportunity, having thought about how you're managing data protection, just to consider what you're going to be doing next. So what kind of advice has your DPO already given you about making some changes? Now, just to say, the idea behind the internal audit is that as a group of DP staff within the school, you will produce one report. So you're not individually going to do all of this work to generate an audit. You are collectively and collaboratively working through this. So what I mean is that, let's imagine you're in a team of say 2 or 3 and you're all responsible for data protection. The first person can come in and answer some questions. The second person can then log in and see what their colleague has written and edit and improve it as they see fit. All you need to do is just to decide who is going to be the person with the responsibility that's going to click on Save as Completed. Now you can see in each section you've actually got Save Current Progress, and this is the one to press as you're still working your way through the questions, because you don't have to do the questions in any particular type of order. You can come in, you can dip in and dip out. However, as soon as you click on Save as Completed, that section will lock out. To draw this to an end, I'm going to return to the navigation pane and then take you back to your dashboard, which is the visual overview of the activity on your portal. Now, in this top right hand pane, you can see the progress of the audits that you have open and that are running. And there's also a little helpful reminder of how many days you have left. So this up here tells us the staff audit. That's the individual questions. These are the school questions that the DP staff answer. And this tells us, of these questions, how many you've actually responded to yet.